At this point, I've put thousands of hours on my Steam Deck OLED and my Steam Deck LCD, and now I've been using the Nintendo Switch 2 for the last few days, and there are a few things that stand out to me as things that nobody else seems to be able to do like Nintendo does. So here are my favorite 3 things about using a Nintendo Switch as someone who has used the Steam Deck and Steam Deck OLED a whole lot. The first thing that really grabbed my attention with the Switch 2 is actually the screen.
Wow, that screen is big.
Now hear me out on this. The Switch 2 is thinner, lighter, and smaller in every way versus the Steam Deck and Steam Deck OLED, and yet it has a bigger screen than both of those devices, a dramatically bigger screen. And what that leaves you with is this magical feeling that you're just holding a screen and everything else just kind of gets out of the way. There's so little extra wasted space on the Switch 2, and that's something Nintendo does really, really well. Whereas if you look at a lot of other handhelds, including the Steam Deck OLED, there's a lot of extra room that could be used more efficiently. And while yes, the Steam Deck OLED has a fantastic screen, and I do really wish they had put OLED in the Switch 2, I'm sure they're going to come out with an OLED version in a while, but I don't think it's as simple as that the Steam Deck OLED just has a better screen. The Switch actually has a really good screen. For one, it's bigger at 7.9 inches versus the Steam Deck OLED 7.4, and that might not sound like that big of a difference, but just look at the difference in screen size right here. And that's compared to the Steam Deck OLED. If we compare it to the LCD screen, which I think is a fair comparison because they're actually closer in starting price than to the Steam Deck OLED. The Switch 2 starts at $450, whereas the Steam Deck LCD starts at $400 and the Steam Deck OLED starts at $550. But here's the thing. The Switch 2 comes with a dock for free in the box. Not a great dock, but still a free dock. And it comes with a free wireless controller, which is these on the side. But then it comes with the little adapter so that you can put them both together and use them as a regular controller. And so when you think about it, you're getting a dock and a wireless controller basically in the box for $450, whereas on the Steam Deck LCD for $400, if you wanted to buy the dock from Valve, that's $80, and if you wanted to buy like an Xbox controller so that you have a wireless controller, that's another like, I don't know, $40 to $60 depending on what you get. And so actually, I think it's reasonable to compare the Steam Deck LCD to the Switch 2. So the Switch 2 has a dramatically bigger screen than the Steam Deck LCD, but it even has a bigger screen than the Steam Deck OLED, and again, all while being in a smaller form factor. And it's not just that the screen is bigger. The Switch 2 screen is actually really good. Let me start with the negatives first. The negatives, it's an LCD, which means the contrast ratio isn't that great. And the other negative for me is that it only gets 450 nits of max brightness. That's actually pretty good, but it's not nearly as good as the Steam Deck OLED's 1000 nits when it's in HDR, so take that for what you will, but it is better than the Steam Deck LCD's max brightness of 400 nits. But other than that, the Switch 2 screen is fantastic. It's big, it's relatively bright, it's very color accurate, and it can run at up to 120 Hertz with variable refresh rate, and variable refresh rate is awesome. It's just going to make your games look smoother when you're at lower frame rates, and that's something that I wish the Steam Deck had, but it doesn't have it. Variable refresh rate on handhelds is phenomenal, and on the Switch 2, it does a fantastic job at making the games look like they're running smoother. So yeah, the Switch 2 screen is really good, and then I'm gonna add this as my 1.5. This isn't gonna count towards the top 3, but a kickstand? Man, it is so nice to just be able to pop out a kickstand, set it down, have the screen be stuck at a certain angle so that you can set it on a desk or a table or whatever, which is how I use handhelds pretty often, and then it's just stuck there. That's something I wish Valve would have done with the Steam Deck. Now the caveat here is you can pretty easily just get a case that'll add a kickstand to the back of your Steam Deck, but still, to have it be built in, it's just better. My second favorite thing about the Switch 2 is if you take the Joy-Cons off, which is really easy to do on the Switch 2, especially compared to the Switch 1, now you've got this little tablet. And what's awesome about this is this fits in like a tablet bag. Like in my backpack, I've got a little slot for the tablet, and this is just so easy to slip somewhere. It fits no problem basically anywhere I want to put it. Actually, I can fit it in my pocket really easily, and then these Joy-Cons you can just toss wherever, so it becomes an incredibly portable package. Compare that to the Steam Deck, and yeah, the Steam Deck is relatively portable, but there's no way I can fit the Steam Deck in my pocket, like absolutely no chance. And it won't fit in any tablet slots that I've got, partially because the controllers, you can't just pop them off the side like you can with the Switch 2, but also because it's a lot thicker and the controllers are a lot bigger. Being able to easily remove the controllers from the side just allows you to make it even more portable from what is already a very portable, very thin, light device. And what comes along with that portability is that you always have a Bluetooth controller with you. These are always here and you can just pop them off and use them as Bluetooth controllers. With the Steam Deck, because I usually like to, whenever I get to where I'm going, I'll plug the Steam Deck up to a TV or something. I usually like to carry around an Xbox controller so that I can play from the couch or whatever. Problem is, an Xbox controller is kind of bulky, especially when you're carrying it with a Steam Deck, and then you got to throw in an Xbox controller and a charger or something like that. With the Switch, you already have your built-in wireless controller, so it just makes this whole package even more portable. And yeah, actually, check this out. Let me show you this real quick. Okay, if I pop the Joy-Cons off, set them down here, then just like this, no problem. These are just my regular pants that I was wearing. Fits in my pocket, no problem. And then if I want, I can take the Joy-Cons, put them in my other pocket, no big deal. There we go. Now I've got the entire console in my pocket. Whereas if I try to do that same thing, here's my Steam Deck OLED. There is absolutely no way. There is no way this is fitting in my pocket. There's just no way. So, now am I actually going to carry the Switch 2 around in my pocket? Probably not. I mean, maybe, but probably not. But it just goes to show how small and compact it is and how easily you can take it around. Having it be totally flat makes it so much easier to slip in a bag versus with the Steam Deck, with the controllers, because it's not flat, because you've got these big old chunky controllers that are way more ergonomic and way more comfortable, and I really do like how they feel, but still, they do not fit in a bag nearly as well because they're big. And if you're wanting to carry your brand new Switch 2 around with you safely, then channel sponsor Mumba has you covered with their cases, shells, and other Switch 2 accessories. I've been using their blade case a ton lately because it offers great protection for the Switch itself, it makes the controllers much more ergonomic and comfortable to hold, and it still fits inside the dock without removing the case itself. Oh, and it's easy to pop off the Joy-Cons because it has this hinge system on the sides. If you want something a little bit thinner, they also offer a clear case that's a similar idea, just a little bit less rugged. Both cases have great buttons, and they have cutouts for airflow, and it hasn't affected the functionality at all that I've noticed. Having a case on just makes me feel a little bit safer about tossing my Switch around because, let's be real, the Switch 2 is kind of expensive. And if you're looking to toss the Switch in a bag or backpack, they have a few different hard case options that should help you out. The cases also include a cart storage system, so it's easy to take a bunch of games with you on the go. Oh, and Mumba has these Joy-Con controller grips that basically turn a single Joy-Con into a much more ergonomic controller. I can't play with a single Joy-Con for more than like, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so without my hands getting pretty uncomfortable. And I played Mario Kart for a couple hours yesterday with one of these with no issues for my hands. And it's way cheaper than buying more controllers. If you're interested, I'll leave a link below, and thanks again to Mumba for sponsoring this section of the video. And to explain my last favorite thing about the Switch, I gotta first walk you through, this is my Steam Deck LCD, and I got this right when it came out, and while I absolutely loved it, I had a couple big problems with it, and one of them was the fans. The fans ran all the time. If you were playing a demanding game, which you're going to because it's a Steam Deck and you want to play demanding games, the fans were loud. They were so loud for me that I almost never used the Steam Deck without headphones because the fan noise was just annoying. Valve did a pretty good job about fixing that with the Steam Deck OLED. It is significantly quieter than the LCD, but you can still definitely hear the fans, especially if you're playing more demanding games. That's where the Switch 2 has really knocked it out of the park. From a regular distance, which is, arm's reach away when you're holding the Switch, I can't hear the fans at all. I'm not talking like a little bit, I mean I can't hear the fans at all. And that's not just when you're playing little non-demanding games. That's when I'm playing Cyberpunk, which is about as demanding as any game gets, and it's pushing the system to its fullest. And yet, When I'm playing Cyberpunk on the Switch 2, I cannot hear the fans. That is something that is absolutely crazy to me and is actually one of my biggest problems about handhelds as a whole, which is that they get either really hot if they don't run their fans loud enough, or if they do run their fans loud enough, then they've got loud fans. The Switch somehow manages to not get hot. I felt it after long gaming sessions. I can feel it's warm to the touch on the back, but definitely not hot. And not only does it not get hot, but it also doesn't have loud fans. You cannot hear the fans. If I hold it up to my ear, then I can hear that there is a fan in there and I can feel a little bit of air coming out. But that's it. I mean, that's nothing. If you can't hear it from a regular distance, the fans are basically non-existent, and that is awesome. And just for some context, that's also been the case when I've been using the Switch hooked up to the dock and playing Cyberpunk on my projector, which I've been doing a lot. Yes, the dock does have a fan in it, but I don't notice the fan in either the Switch or the dock at all while I'm playing Cyberpunk in either handheld or docked mode. So fan noise is phenomenal on the Switch 2, at least in my experience. So those are my 3.5 favorite things as a Steam Deck user that has been using the Switch 2 for the last few days. But I'd love to hear, if you have a Steam Deck or any other handheld, what are your favorite features on the Switch, or what things are you looking forward to? I definitely do have some negatives with the Switch that I do not like, and I'll be making a video on that, so subscribe if you want to see it. But I'm curious, from the PC handheld community, what does it feel like to use a Switch after using a PC handheld? It is quite a bit different. I actually don't think there's a ton of overlap between people who are going to buy a Nintendo Switch and people who are going to buy like a Steam Deck OLED. I mean, yeah, there is some overlap, and I'm one of them, and if you're watching this channel, you're probably one of them too. But I would be willing to bet most people are either looking to get one or the other, and probably the Switch if we just look at sales numbers. All right, see you all in the next one. Peace.